Right now, you are probably sitting down. Maybe you are at a desk, looking at a screen, or leaning back on a soft couch. Around you, the air is perfectly controlled. Clean water comes out of a metal tap, and food sits frozen inside a white box. You spend your days answering emails, filing reports, or scrolling through digital feeds to earn papers that you trade for survival. It feels like the normal human routine. But the real answer to how our species spent its time for 99% of our history is far stranger than you think. You are currently living in a historical anomaly, an extreme experiment that would make your ancestors completely lose their minds. For nearly 200,000 years, nobody had a job, nobody had a clock, and nobody worked a 40-hour week. What did ancient humans actually do all day? To find out, you have to look at the daily reality of a prehistoric hunter-gatherer. For a long time, early historians believed that ancient life was a brutal, non-stop nightmare of starvation and terror. They assumed our ancestors woke up at dawn, ran from predators until dark, and collapsed from exhaustion, desperately hunting for an extra berry just to stay alive. But in the 1960s, an anthropologist named Marshall Sahlins challenged this idea completely. He conducted extensive studies on surviving hunter-gatherer groups like the Juhuansi of the Kalahari Desert. What he discovered shocked the academic world. Sahlins realized that these ancient societies did not live in constant scarcity. Instead, they were part of what he called the original Affluent Society. On an average day, an adult in a hunter-gatherer tribe only spent about 3 to 5 hours securing food. They would walk through the brush, track an animal, dig up a few roots, or gather nuts from a grove. And once they had enough calories for the day, they simply stopped. They did not store extra food because they did not need to. They trusted that the environment would provide again tomorrow. This means that your ancestors had an overwhelming amount of free time. If you subtract 4 hours of light foraging, they were left with up to 12 hours of absolute leisure every single day. Think about your own life. How many hours of pure, unstructured free time do you get between your job, your commute, and your endless chores? For an ancient human, leisure was not a luxury for the weekend. It was the structural foundation of their entire existence. So, what did they do with those 12 hours of empty space? They did not sit around staring at the walls, bored out of their minds. Instead, they filled their days with intense social bonding, creative play, and deep rest. A huge portion of an ancient human's day was spent talking. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner tracked the conversations of the Jew/Hoanzi tribe during the day and the night. She discovered a fascinating split in how the human mind communicates. During the day, while walking and foraging, conversations were highly practical. They talked about tracking strategies, where the best water holes were, or who owed meat to whom. But at night, everything shifted. Once the campfire was lit, the practical talk completely vanished. Over 80% of the nighttime conversations were dedicated entirely to storytelling. They told myths about the stars, retold funny things that happened years ago, and gossiped about tribal relationships. The campfire was their internet, their television, and their theater all rolled into one. It was an environment where your brain's social networks were deeply wired and reinforced. When they weren't talking, they were sleeping, but not the way you sleep today. In the modern world, you are expected to sleep in one solid 8-hour block, hidden away in an isolated room. If you wake up at 2 in the morning, you think something is wrong with your health. But sleep researchers studying traditional societies have found that natural human sleep is completely different. Ancient humans practiced segmented sleep and polyphasic napping. They slept when they were tired, woke up in the middle of the night to chat or check the fire, and took long, luxurious naps during the hot afternoon. Sleep was a social, flexible activity, often done in a pile with family members under the open sky. The rest of their time was dedicated to art and play. Your ancestors spent hours applying colorful pigments to rocks, carving intricate designs into bone needles, and weaving complex patterns into leather pouches. They played elaborate tracking games, danced to rhythmic clapping, and wrestled on the grass. Life was highly physical, deeply sensory, and completely grounded in the present moment. This creates a profound, counterintuitive twist in human history. We are taught to believe that human progress has been a steady march toward a better, easier life. We think that technology has freed us from the crushing weight of physical labor. But when historians look closely at the transition to agriculture, they realize the exact opposite happened. Around 10,000 years ago, humans began farming. Suddenly, the 5-hour workday exploded into a 12-hour workday. Humans became slaves to the seasons, clearing rocks, pulling weeds, and guarding crops from dawn until dusk. Anthropologists studying ancient skeletons found that the early farmers had much higher rates of arthritis, malnutrition, and stress than their hunter-gatherer ancestors. By trying to secure more food, we accidentally trapped ourselves in a cycle of endless labor. And the Industrial Revolution only accelerated this trap. In the 1800s, factories introduced mechanical clocks, turning human time into a rigid commodity. For the first time in history, your value was tied directly to how many hours you could stand next to a machine. Today, we have replaced the factories with digital screens, but the underlying pressure remains the same. Your ancient brain is still designed for a world of abundance, short bursts of activity, and endless hours of social connection. Yet you force it to sit perfectly still for 8 hours, staring at an artificial light source, worrying about a bank account that doesn't physically exist. This is why you feel a constant underlying sense of anxiety and restlessness. Your mind is looking for the campfire, the 12 hours of open leisure, and the comforting voices of a tight-knit tribe. Instead, it gets an inbox full of unread messages and a schedule packed with deadlines. You are not broken. You are simply a hunter-gatherer trapped inside a hyper-efficient machine that was never built for you. So what can you do with this realization? You cannot walk away from your job and build a grass hut in the woods. You cannot dismantle the modern global economy by sheer willpower. But you can look at your free time through a completely different lens. The next time you find yourself with an empty afternoon, resist the urge to turn it into a productive task. Stop trying to optimize every single minute of your existence. Instead, let yourself experience absolute unproductive emptiness. Take a long, unhurried nap in the middle of the day. Sit with a friend and talk about nothing important until late into the night. Realize that resting, playing, and simply existing are not rewards you have to earn after a hard week of work. They are the exact things your body was designed to do all along. Because right now, you are probably sitting down, looking down at a screen, completely unaware that your ancient mind is still waiting to return to the camp.